Okay, now we're going to do a couple of more advanced problems in this section on solving radical equations. There's some that even get more advanced than this where they have another variable on the right-hand side that's not under the radical. You'll see some of those in this section. But the way that we've reordered things from the book, we actually need to go into Module 7 to learn some steps and some strategies to help us do those. So we may come back to those in Module 7, but for right now, this is as advanced as we're going to get in terms of solving radical equations. So let's take a look at this first one. Have a little bit more complicated expression under the radical. I want to get that expression by itself. So the first thing I'm going to do is add 10 to both sides of this equation. So I'm going to bring down that radical on the left-hand side. That leaves me with the square root of 3x minus 5 under the radical is equal to a positive 8. Since I have the radical all by itself and I have an expression underneath it, at this point, whenever you square a radical, remember you get what's underneath the radical. So that gives me just 3x minus 5. Don't forget to square the right-hand side. That's the most common mistake I see students make. 8 squared is 64. Don't leave that as 8, or you're going to get the wrong answer. So now I add 5 to both sides, and I get 3x is equal to 69. Divide by 3, and I get an x value equal to 23. And again, the cool thing about these problems is it doesn't take me very long to check and see that I got the right answer. If I plug 23 in for x, 3 times 23 is 69, minus 5 is 64, the square root of that is 8, minus 10 gives me negative 2. So I know that that number checks out. Okay? Now this second equation here is a little bit different, and I want to show you something that happens here. When I start to solve this, if I subtract 10 from both sides, I'm still going to get the radical on the left, but look what I have on the right. Now, mathematically, I can go forward from here, but let me tell you something. If I take the square root of anything on this side, I don't care what I plug in for x, positive or negative as an answer, when you take the square root of that thing, we're only looking for the positive root. I don't have a plus or minus out here, or I don't have a minus in front of the radical sign. If I'm only looking for the positive root, there's no way that I can find a value of x that is going to get a negative number here when I take the square root of it. So I can stop right there and say that there's no solution. That's an extraneous answer, even if we can mathematically get an answer. I could work this out. If I square both sides, I'm going to get 3x minus 5. Negative 8 squared is positive 64. There's the problem. I'm squaring a negative here. I'm squaring not necessarily a negative on the left-hand side. So if I add 5 to both sides here, I get 3x equals 69, and then divide by 3, I get x is equal to 23 again. If you plug 23 into this expression, this isn't going to work. 3 times 23 is 69, minus 5 is 64. The square root of 64 is 8, plus 10 is not 2. I'd have to get negative 8 out of this, and I can't. I don't care what I get for an answer. So when you get to this point where you have radical anything equals a negative number, doesn't matter what that number is, the answer is always, always, always no solution. Okay, you cannot get a value that makes that true, ever. So watch for those as you go through some of these problems that we assign to you, that if you ever get a radical equals a negative, you're done. It's impossible.